So Salah's penalties. Let's talk about penalties because it was a hot topic. And what's interesting, I listened to the Who Got the Assist podcast this week, one of about 20 podcasts I take in these days. So just getting content from every angle I can. And they had a really good focus piece on penalties. So listen to that if you're interested in penalties and what it means for your FPL team. I can recommend that podcast. And basically, there's been a change in kind of the Premier League, not in the Premier League ruling as such, but FIFA apparently have got onto the Premier League and said they've got to be more strict on defensive handballs. And if there is a deflection before a handball, but that defensive player is trying to make his body bigger, trying to block the shot or the pass, then it should be a penalty. And apparently that changed, I think, summer 2019. And so this season, people like I think it's Dale Johnson on ESPN are predicting we're going to get more penalties. And he actually says many more penalties. And the stats we've got here show that in 2016-17 there was 106. That's the highest, I think, in Premier League history. And on Who Got the Assists podcast, they were looking at bookies odds for penalties, and they were saying that they think there's going to be around 12 to 15 more penalties, and they think that the minimum's going to be 106, and it's going to go to about 115, maybe more. So, what do you make of that? Given that we had, I think, 5 at the weekend straight away, and obviously already it's turned FPL upside down with Vardy and Salah.
Yeah, I mean there was one at the weekend, wasn't there, where one of the penalties was that, wasn't it? Didn't it hit the ball and hit
it was Salah's. It was Salah's. Yeah.
Salah's. Yeah, that's it. And I think there was another one which I thought might be given, but they did deem that his hands were down. So there was, it could have been 2 off the bat. I mean, the thing is, they said that there were going to be like a massive increase in penalties last season because of VAR coming in, and there wasn't. Yeah. And now they've brought in the, now the ref can actually go and see the pitch side monitor. I think that's going to reduce that number a bit. So maybe that will kind of balance it out a little bit. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's so hard to predict. I mean, the thing is that you get your penalty takers in because it's just an easy source of points. And you look at Vardy, for example. I mean, his XG was 0, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had no touches in the box other than the penalties.
No. One of the most unthreatening displays you could see, and yet comes away with 2 goals.
It was Havertz, wasn't it? Basically.
Yeah, Havertz, exactly. Yeah. So that is what you get. You gain that chance even when your player's not performing very well. You still get that chance for them to score. So obviously having a penalty taker in your team is a good thing to have. I mean, and you look at a team like United, and Fernandes gets a lot of penalties. United get a lot of penalties, and people get fed up with it. But that is United's style of play. They play with 3 incredibly fast players up front who invite tackles and invite penalties. So it's no surprise that they're the team that gets the most penalties, because their whole game is built around that kind of thing. So having the penalty taker in for United, they will get penalties throughout the season. So he will get you a steady stream.
Yeah, I mean, 14 last year, 12 the year before that. They were top in the Premier League for those 2 seasons. The number of penalties did go down last season from 103 in 2018-19 down to 92 last season. So even though VAR was there, the number of penalties did go down. Yeah. So maybe the estimate of 110, 112 that was mentioned on the Who Got the Assist podcast is a bit much. But even so, we have got to think about penalty takers. I mean, I don't think that's new, though. We do. I mean, I knew not having Vardy at West Brom, and Vardy. We talk about disappointing stats, but we know we talk about player signatures. His signature is ignore the data. He can deliver. Don't worry about Opta stats with Vardy. We know that he can. Like Aubameyang, he denies those. He always delivers regardless of stats. So I knew when I didn't have Vardy, he was a risk, because I thought West Brom are going to score there. And, what's Vardy's involvement in their goals? 40, 50%? So it's like buying, if there's 100 lottery tickets and you've got 50% of them, there's a good chance you're going to win. That's not luck. That's because you went and invested in Vardy. So, and they got 3 goals and he got 2 of them. I mean, Harvey Barnes was fantastic in that game and came out with nothing. So I think if I owned Barnes, I'd be a bit frustrated. But Vardy owners delighted. And you can't deny them that, even though the stats say he didn't really figure in the match very much. He's a penalty taker in a match where Leicester were likely to score goals. So there's not really luck there.
And we talked last week about captaining players against the bottom teams, and it's another reason why if you're captaining a penalty taker against the bottom teams, they are more likely to get penalties because they're playing against defenders who are worse than playing. If you've got a player playing Chelsea and a player playing West Brom, you're more likely to get a penalty in the match against West Brom because they're going to be rasher. They're not as experienced. There's loads of reasons why. So yeah, penalty. I mean, we're not exactly geniuses for saying that penalty takers are good, but penalty takers are good.